What's up, everybody? It's Andre Iguodala from the Golden State Warriors here. It's my pleasure, on behalf of New Amendment and the Point Forward podcast, to invite you all out on Friday, March 10th, to Beyond the Big Ten live recording taking place at Over Under Sports Bar in Lincoln Park, Chicago. That's Friday, March 10th at Over Under from 3 to 7 p.m. Look forward to catching y'all there.
What's good, Badger fans? We are back to tip off another edition of a Shot of Wisky podcast brought to you by the good people at New Amendment as a part of Beyond the Big Ten podcast network. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you get your podcasts, and on YouTube and all other socials. That's Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok with the handle at Beyond the Big Ten, not spelled out, but the number 10. Also, if you're going to be in Chicago for the Big Ten tournament, March 8th to the 12th, be sure to stop by the Over Under Sports Bar for the Beyond the Big Ten live podcast event featuring 2011 National Player of the Year and second overall pick Evan Turner, as well as other Big Ten basketball legends. A Shot of Wisky will be represented by who is still to be determined, but stay tuned for social media posts as two winners will receive signed memorabilia and a VIP ticket to the games. I am former Badger All-American Jordan Taylor. And back with me, as always, is my guy, Jon Leuer, former Badger All-American, 2011 second-round pick and 8-year NBA bet. Johnny, what's good? How are you? How's life?
I'm doing okay. Just watched the Michigan games for the listener. Michigan game just finished, so I can't say I'm doing great.
Yeah, that was a tough one to watch, man. We're going to jump into all that. But before we do, we got a very, very special guest for you guys. And I think no one more fitting than to break down this week of basketball as we head into March. The one and only, the legendary Badger coach, basketball Hall of Famer, and two-time Final Four participant with the Badgers, as you all so well remember, 2014 and 15. We got the one and only Coach William Bo Ryan. What's going on, Coach? Appreciate you joining us.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Get a chance to talk to you two guys, two of my favorites. Those years you guys played, it seemed like a blur, but the office, the managers and AJ at the office, I have now a DVD of every game that I coached at Wisconsin. So if any of you guys start talking about what you did and how good you were, I got all the proof right here.
Hey, Coach, I can back that up too. You called me a couple months ago. You said, John, I was watching the Michigan game your freshman year when you dropped 25. I'm like, Coach, you just sit around and watch all these old games? But now I know you got the DVD set.
I got every one of them. And John, it's unbelievable. I still remember when your mom asked a couple of my assistants, how does John go about getting that shoe contract? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yes. Clueless mom.
She was just kidding. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Did you get a shoe contract, John?
About 4 years later. Yeah.
All right,
not after that game.
Well, she was speaking it into existence. So watch what you say about Holly Lure on here, man. Watch what you say.
She was.
I'm gonna have to get you in touch with my
Crocs don't count as a shoe deal, buddy. Come on.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's probably true.
Coach, I was wearing Crocs in college, and I used to get clowned, and now Crocs are coming back as a fad. So it's
they are coming back, and it's a guy from Wisconsin. Wisconsin made them.
Well, I didn't know that. I know you have all the Wisconsin facts as well as Chester, Pennsylvania. So we'll get into all that, man. We got a lot to cover this week. Before we do, also you're gonna have to get in touch with my dad because I know, for one, he's gonna want to see all those games, those Wisconsin games, and I think you two are the only two people probably still watching DVDs. So you guys will have a lot to.
Probably that's true, but at least I have them. At least physically I have them.
Hey, as long as you can get to them, you're cooking. You're ahead of the rest of us when the internet crash happens. So you're good to go. But listen, we're going to jump in.
I got a lot of pictures. I got a lot of pictures of you guys from the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies at Wisconsin. Got a lot of pictures.
Yep, and
very special moments for all three of us, and be able to share it with all three of us. I think was one of the highlights of my sporting career for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just felt bad at being around you two guys. Everybody said, well, who's that guy? Pointing to me, of course.
Yeah, right.
Who's that old guy?
Yeah, right.
Hey, I know who got the loudest ovation on the football field that night. It wasn't Jordan.
Wow,
hey,
shoot, you lying.
If Wilkinson would have had his tractor, he'd have gotten a really big hand. He didn't bring his. Hey, do you guys know Marcus Landry is farming? Did you know that?
You know that.
Marcus Landry is farming, and he got all that from Wilkinson. So when I found out, I called him up. I started the conversation by saying, "Hey, I need 2 dozen eggs." And there was a big pause at the end. And Marcus, it's like he started to cry. He said, Coach, how are you doing? How you say you heard that? Marcus was great. He was great.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's producing.
I see all the horses and chickens and cows, and he's doing his thing with the farming.
Good for him. I would get lost. Chester didn't have any farms, Jordan.
Yeah, I bet y'all did somewhere. That's the belt. What's that? What y'all call it? What is it? The belt? What is it? The Beltway? The belt? What is that?
Oh, that's more down in
Pennsylvania,
D.C.,
Ohio, and
Baltimore. The Schuylkill Expressway is what everybody, and South Philly, where a lot of dances, a lot of singers, Philly's got a sound. It was mostly groups from North Philly, though, but South Philly had a few back in the 60s. And that's where I learned the hambo.
All right, man. Let's keep you on task, man. Let's jump into the X's and O's.
This is what
man.
I used to do at my press conferences. People would walk away and go, "What did he say? What was he talking about?"
Hey, you were masterful at that. That was tactical all these years. People never understood that.
Aaron Andrews would say, "Wait a minute, what? I asked you a question and you gave a totally different answer, like I didn't even ask the question." I said, that takes practice. I told her that takes practice.
You should have been a politician or a senator or something.
Well, Tim Valentine says I should have been a lawyer.
There you go.
All right, we gonna jump into the X's and O's, man. And the Badgers. Big week for the Badgers. Faced off with Iowa. Got a win against Iowa early in the week, 64-52. And this is being recorded shortly after the heartbreaking loss to Michigan. But John and Coach Ryan, you're new to the show. So how we do it is we'll pick the first game. And we start with the bad and move to the good. So we'll pick out 2 things or a couple things that we didn't like from the Iowa game and a couple things that we did like. So as the newcomer, we'll let you lead it off and jump in. Give me a couple things that you didn't like from the Badger squad about that Iowa game.
Well, the Iowa game we won.
Yeah,
didn't we?
Hey, I know who I'm talking to. I know you got something to pick out. I know you got something to critique.
Well, the one thing I've always felt is there are teams that play at a pace that if you get behind to them, you can always come back. You notice what they've always said about our teams is that, being down 5 is like being down 10 because of the pace sometimes. And it isn't that you slow it down purposely. It's just you make an extra pass or 2 in order to touch the post, in order to get to the free throw line. You know all our rules. Get in the 1-on-1 before the other teams. Get in the 2-shot before the other teams. The only way you do that is you got to touch the post. So that's why we spent all that time when you guys were going to the locker room and saying, I can't believe he still does those passing drills where we got to bounce it into the post, inside, outside. I know you used to talk about me. I planted a microphone in the locker room. You just didn't know that.
Coach, I'm not Aaron Andrews, so you can't talk around me. You got to give me 2 things you didn't like about the Iowa game.
Well, I just thought, I mean, we, on these dry spells, guys, can you ever remember having that many when you guys played? Those empty possessions, but they still got it done. They still found a way. But I just think that there are certain teams that are going to give you a better chance, by giving you more opportunities. And that's exactly what happened in the Iowa game.
Yep, Jon and I played in the 36-33 game, so we definitely had a couple of those draw spells for sure. But I'll let Jon go ahead. My bad, sorry to cut you off, but go ahead with your. I
thought of that too. I was going to leave that out, but I guess if I had to critique one thing I didn't like, the first half we had 8 turnovers, and that's very uncharacteristic of us, right? Coach Ryan, it's fitting we have you on here because I know that probably irked you as well. But to our credit, we've led the country in fewest turnovers for how many years now, and this year's no different. We only had 1 in the second half. I think we had another one late, so we corrected it. Credit to Coach Gard for emphasizing that at half. That was emphasized at half. Guys did a much better job of taking care of it. But the first half, those 8 turnovers led to 11 points and gave Iowa life.
For sure.
They did. We still hold the record, Wisconsin, for the fewest number of turnovers averaged in a year. Temple had it with John Chaney. Yeah. And John Chaney was a friend of mine. He's such a good guy. I knew him when he coached at Chaney State. The school wasn't named after him, but it was Chaney State, which a lot of the guys from Chester, you notice I got Chester in again, Jordan. But a lot of guys from Chester went to Chaney State. And they won a couple championships. But turnovers, take care of the ball, get good shots. It still works. Still works.
The other thing that's not working for the Badgers right now that was tough for us, 10 for 18 from the free throw line against Iowa. It's 55%, 61% on the season, in the Big Ten season, which is something that come March has to be addressed. It has to be corrected because you can't leave 8 points at the free throw line in one possession, 2 possession games.
I was going to mention that, but I didn't want to put you guys out in the limelight as much. But when you two guys played, we were tenths away from holding the national record for free throw percentage, for the best free throw percentage. Yeah, we lost it. We lost it. You know what, Coach? You probably don't even know this story, but we lost it in that Butler game, right? In the tournament. We lost it in the Butler
those free
game.
Throws. I think I missed like 4. And there was a night out.
But who's counting?
Right after the tournament. I was counting. There was a night out right after that. It was either 4 or 5, and a kid kept following me around and jabbing me about missing all those free throws the whole night after the season was
don't
over.
Worry about it. I missed way more field goals than that game.
But I ended up getting into it with the kid. I ended up pushing the kid. We got into a little fight because he was bothering me all night. He followed me from my apartment we went to 5 guys after,
he probably had money on the game. That's why he was upset.
He probably did. I didn't even know what lines were back then, but that's all right. Like you said, we still got the win against Iowa. So put it back on topic. So some of the things that I personally liked about Iowa was obviously Connor's season continues to shine. But the defense, man, 3 of 28 from 3 against Iowa is crazy, especially given what they just did to Michigan State the other night. Holding them to 52 points. You mentioned, Coach, the pace that they play at. So to be able to hold a team that plays at that pace to 52 is incredible. And we did a great job neutralizing Chris Murray. But that was a big thing. And obviously that's a staple of Wisconsin basketball. But give me a couple things that you guys liked about it. And Jon, I'll let you lead this one off.
I think you stole mine. Connor, a bounce back game for him, right? He went 0 for 10 the game before. And I think I just heard in the telecast that after that game, he went straight up to the practice gym and started getting shots up with his brother. And I think that just speaks to the type of mentality, type of kid that he is. You hear stories about Kobe doing that, right? You hear stories about all-time greats that kind of have that mentality. So for him to bounce back with 17, find his rhythm again as a freshman, this kid just keeps on developing, keeps getting better, and the future is really, really bright for him.
Yeah, he's a real deal, no question. First time I saw him, I went to practice back in October, and I'm thinking, okay, who's this ball boy? Who's this kid? He looked 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And then the Gardo had a shooting drill, and I didn't ask any more questions. I just said, that kid, that stroke, that release, he just, and his twitch, mean, he's wiry, quick, and can get a shot off on anybody anytime. And it's just a matter of maturing. I think about on the wall the picture of Jon Leuer when he looked 12 years old. That when we had the pictures, for people that don't know, in our practice gym, we had pictures of every player, either shooting or dribbling or doing something. And John, you look so young.
I look 9. I don't even think 12.
Yeah, you might have been 9, not 12.
Yeah.
But Connor Essegian can get you back in a game in a hurry. He really can.
Is he the best? I said to John in the summertime, and I know I annoyed John about it all summer because I told him I think Connor was the best shooter that I've ever seen at Wisconsin. Obviously, he hasn't accomplished some of the things that other guys, but just like you said, from a skill set standpoint, I haven't seen, and that's no disrespect to Jason Bohannon or Kirk Penny or any of those guys, but I don't think I've seen a better shooter than Connor. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, it's early yet, but he's not going to go backwards.
Yeah,
not a guy that does what he did, getting into the gym and doing that. That's funny you mentioned Kobe. Behind me over here, I have the program from the induction into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Guess who went in with me? Kobe Bryant.
Wow.
Just so you know,
R.I.P.
I thought I'd sneak that in.
That's
there.
pretty cool right there. I gotta.
But you brought him up first. You brought him up.
Yep.
But his work
R.I.P.
habits were unbelievable. His work, Kobe worked very hard and earned everything.
Yeah, well documented. But a good win. I actually saw a fan on Twitter, John, talking about the Badgers haven't beat a tournament caliber team since December. So why would it change? So that was another thing I like to kind of, shut that guy up, whoever that was, shout him out. I got to get his handle. But Michigan today, tough loss, a well played game. Had the game won. That's one of those games that, hopefully it doesn't come back to haunt us in the tournament. I think a lot of things to like from the game. Obviously, Connor Essegian again, but some things that we didn't like. And again, I'll let you lead it off from the game today. Some things that you thought we could have improved on.
Well, I think we definitely could have improved on making Dickinson's touches a little bit tougher. I think he got comfortable in that first half with some of those jump hooks, and you know how we practice those all the time. Obviously, he's been working on them because that part of his game today was a shining moment for Michigan, and that got him the lead. Mm-hmm. So I thought we could have made it a little tougher for him to catch in some of those positions, but that's easy for somebody sitting in a chair watching on TV. It's hard because he's that good. He was a difference maker today. The other thing on the negative side to me was the left-hander going down the left lane line. And you guys know our rule on no right hand, right lane line, no left hand, left lane line. Make it tough for the guy turning back into help. But I can't remember his name. But anyhow, he made like 3 baskets going down that left lane line with a little scoop shot that I thought we could have been a little bit better defensively. But offensively, for us to come back the way we did, I don't know what we shot from the free throw line, but in that one stretch there when we were making the comeback, we shot free throws pretty well, I thought.
11 to 12
from where we were before. So unfortunately, the home team gets the bucket at the buzzer. They got all the momentum with them going into the overtime. It's really hard to beat the home team when they're the ones that put it into overtime. That's right. To me, that was always tougher.
Yep. John, what do you think?
No, for sure. I think one area I think we could improve on, finishing around the basket, right? I think we were 5 for 14 on layups in the first half. I don't know what we finished the game at. I think it was a little better in the second half, but boy, when you get the ball in the paint, you got to be able to convert, right? That's a staple of our offense. Going back to Coach Ryan, we touch the post, we get it in the paint, and we got to convert. So that's got to be a little more efficient as the season progresses here down the stretch. And then one other thing that it's tough to say because if Jordan Davis tips that ball at the end, the game's over. But he went for the steal, goes over his hand. That way Hunter Dickinson's able to get a clean look off. You just think, man, if he just stayed in front of him, made him catch it, that three's a lot tougher at the end, right? So I think if Jordan had to do it over again, he would have just stayed in position and forced Hunter to take that shot over the top of him.
Yeah, you definitely stole that. You definitely stole that one for me. That was the one because I didn't dislike a whole lot from that game. I thought, given the fact that Chucky went out with an injury, hopefully he's okay.
That's what I was going to just say. Yeah.
He went out with Chucky goes down, and I was, they fought hard. Kamari McGee was, I thought, a steady hand for them. Obviously not super productive from a number standpoint, but he did a good job of getting the ball where it was supposed to be, handling pressure and all that. And then on top of that, I thought the late game execution, which is something that we've talked about before, John, was really good. I thought Coach Guard's sets, whether it was a pick and pop into a pin down for Connor, the clear out for Max Klesmit late in the game was nice. I even thought the play that Connor kind of rushed the three on the split action out of the post, and Tyler Wall would have been open for a layup. I think it was Tyler
for a layup.
Screen, if he would have slipped the screen. But overall, I thought, damn near perfect, especially down the stretch. But I think that just goes to show you in a game like that, it's a tournament type game on the road. You have to be pretty much perfect to win those type of games. So
we are a good team. That is a good team that was out there on that court today and in the past. We are so close and scary in the Big Ten tournament. I don't know too many people that really want Wisconsin when these standings finally expose themselves at the end. But there's a lot of teams that are like that. How about the spurts with teams? Win 5 in a row, 6 in a row. And I've never seen it to where we had 1 year where we lost 6 games in a row. Were you guys?
My freshman
you guys
year.
are part of that,
sophomore
right?
year, Jordan's freshman year.
Yeah.
And we end up going to the NCAA tournament. That, to me, was the biggest turnaround that I can ever say I witnessed as a coach. And you guys righted the ship, and we ended up, advancing and keeping that streak alive. But I do like this team, and if we can get a chance to get in the NCAA tournament, a win over Purdue for sure would put us in that position. I would think. But I'm not in those meetings, and that's not an easy task. How would you guys like to be on that panel trying to pick the teams every year? I don't know. That's pretty hard.
I think they just got a sorting hat back there. I'm in London, so forgive the Harry Potter reference, but it's got some type of magical hat, and they just be making stuff up, man. But so I don't understand the quad one, how Ohio State's a quad one win, and this, that, and the third. But we'll jump into the Purdue stuff. The other thing, it's been an unusual Wisconsin season. I can't remember a time where Chucky's been hurt now, Tyler Wall's been hurt, Max Klesmit, this many injuries in the Big Ten season. I don't know how many games we've played with a healthy team, and then you add in the fact that obviously you lose, Johnny Davis. We really haven't been whole all year, which is tough. It's a tough hill to climb, especially for a Wisconsin type program.
Well, the portal's been pretty good with Klesmit. He's really helped, and then I know my wife doesn't want me to talk about Kamari going in the transfer portal from my son at Green Bay, so we won't go there on that one. But Kamari did a good job of taking care of the ball and gave him some good minutes. But we need to get Chucky back on the court. Have you guys heard anything about the status?
No update. No update on Chucky. Haven't heard yet. We will keep our ear to the ground for that. And John, you have one more thing to add?
I was just going to touch on the same point that you guys did and just reiterate the fight and the grit that they showed right after we just talked about Chucky going down. We were down by dang near 10. And at that point, we've all been in that point before where you lose somebody and it's a tough game on the road. It can go one of two ways. That could have gone to 20 real easy, but those guys just kept fighting. Coach, to your point, Max Klesmit was huge, right? Without Chucky out there, the ball goes back to him usually right at the end of the shot clock, but it was going to Max, it was going to Connor Those guys were making plays. So I think that's something that's good for their development, something that's a positive to take away from the game.
Yeah, 100%. Something to build on for sure.
100%. Coach, you mentioned Purdue, so we're going to jump into the scouting report. This week, the Badgers were on the last 4 in just a couple days ago, according to Mike DeCourcy. Played a Michigan team that was among the first 4 out, so we'll see what shakes out this week. John, you and I, as I mentioned, I was the first tournament team that the Badgers have beat since December, and John, you and I have discussed what it would take for the Badgers to get into the tournament. So we lost the Michigan game. You said it was going to be the Michigan, Iowa, and Minnesota, and we're in. The Michigan game is out, so we have to reassess. I think I've always said it comes down to Purdue myself. I think really none of these games matter as long as you beat Purdue, and obviously you take care of business against Minnesota. So that being said, obviously Purdue, one of the best teams in the country. Zach Edey up for National Player of the Year. This game would be big for momentum going into the tournament, all that, as you all know. So give us, Coach, give us your thoughts on what it's going to take to beat Purdue this week.
Get Edey into foul trouble. Get him off the floor. I mean, he takes up so much. I mean, we see what Dickinson did to us. What I'm hoping is that we can get the big fella to the bench. And, you know, the only way to do that is we got to attack. We got to touch the post. I mean, when I say attack, under control, pump fakes, jump stop. You guys are tired of hearing that, I know, over the years that you were at Wisconsin. They called us pump fake you or ball fake you. And I think if we can but he doesn't leave his feet. Have you noticed that about him when he plays? He really doesn't leave his feet a lot until after the offensive player has made the commitment. So he is a little tougher to get into foul trouble. The other thing is you got freshman guards who haven't played in the Kohl Center. And I just think if the crowd gets into it, the crowd gets makes some noise, and teams are responsible for getting the crowd to make noise. You got to play well to get the fans into it. So I'm hoping they do that and kind of get those guys who are freshmen. Of course, this time of the year they always say you're not a freshman anymore, but you know they still haven't been in the Kohl Center. And the Kohl Center's been pretty good to the University of Wisconsin. So I think that and be patient on offense. You know, Purdue's pretty physical, and sometimes you're going to take some bumps. You're going to take some, you know, there's some physical play involved there. Handle it. Don't get discouraged, and just keep fighting through. So toughness, touching the post, getting the big guy in some foul trouble, I think increases our chances immensely.
John, what you think?
No, absolutely. Coach touched on it. I mean, I think it's anytime you play Purdue, it's all about Edey, right? And how do you contain him? How do you get him into foul trouble? So one thing I'm going to be looking for is Stephen Crowell, but also Carter Gilmore, right? We've seen him multiple times this year off the bench, just battle Hunter Dickinson, battle, you know, the opposing team's big and make life miserable for him. You know, maybe he's able to get some cheap offensive fouls because he's just a pest and Edey gets frustrated with him. But that's the matchup that I'm going to be focused on. That's the matchup we have to win. Stephen Crowell and Carter Gilmore making Edey's life very problematic and tough for him.
Well, you're talking about Gilmore. I don't know if you guys know, but he was a player on our first national championship team at Platteville. Brian Gilmore, his dad.
His dad was.
Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
And he played what you just said, John, about being physical in the post and being able to get those minutes. That's what he did for us. His dad did. So
it's genetic.
Yes. Yeah. But actually, his mom is the better player of the two. I hope Gilly's not listening to this, but anyhow, no, she was a heck of a player at Platteville. Steph was. She was pretty good, really good.
Shout out to Gilmore family, man. But I think obviously Zach Edey's gonna be a huge key. But we struggled with guards a little bit this year. You know, especially earlier on in the year. Today, obviously Kobe Buffkin got the best of us as well as McDaniel. So I think it's going to be key to kind of slow down Braden Smith and Fletcher Leuer as well. If they get going, then I think it's going to be a really long night. Obviously, having Chucky is going to be crucial. But Purdue has a lot of firepower. They've had 50-point halves in the Big Ten, which is somewhat unheard of. I guess maybe a little more common now, but yeah, definitely got to corral, as to use your word, Coach, corral Fletcher Leuer and Braden Smith and keep those guys in check. And I think we'll have a chance, especially at home. I know the crowd will be into it, so hopefully a little repeat of last year. And then obviously moving into the Minnesota game, I'm not even going to touch on it. One, because I want to be super disrespectful to Trevor Mbakwe and Kendall Shell over at the Minnesota podcast and Blake Hoffarber. I don't think they deserve our mentions this year until they get their program together. So I'm just not going to touch on it. And Amir and Ernest, you can send that their way. So we'll move.
Did you see what happened in the game today? Speaking of Minnesota, Jordan.
No, what happened?
The young man got hurt, and then the coach had to pick a shooter. Do you remember who I picked when the Minnesota guy got hurt and I had to pick a player?
Who?
Mbakwe. It's either him or Rodney Williams, but I think it was Mbakwe. Were you guys playing then? Were you guys playing then?
Trev, the same class as John.
I'm pretty sure that's who it was.
We'll be sure to send
I'm 75 now. My memory isn't quite as good as you young guys. I have a hard time with that. But here's the thing about Minnesota. You're playing a team that has nothing to lose. Their last game of the year, they'll play loose. I was involved as an assistant. By the way, the Big Ten Network on Bill Cofield did an Emmy performance. They put that thing together. And I've heard from people all over about how well done that was. But anyhow, when I was coaching with Coach Cofield, it was senior night in the field house, and we started all seniors. And they had Kevin McHale and several other really good players. They were in first place or tied for first that night, and we ended up beating them. So there's never an automatic. And to me, it might come down to making sure at Minnesota, we simply play Wisconsin basketball, that we don't need to do anything else.
Listen, I know that there's no such thing as an automatic in coach speak, but we're on the other side. I told Coach Gar before the Northwestern game, and I told him I wouldn't do this again because I think I jinxed us, but that's automatic. We beat That's automatic.
Hey, the X factor in that game, though, just as a side note, right? Jordan and I both lived it. You got a lot of Minnesota guys that are from Minnesota on your team in Wisconsin. So how do they handle, the emotion of that game, right? That's an X factor for it. So nothing's automatic, Jordan. Stop saying that.
All right, my fault. We'll see after. It's still automatic. But let's move into our last segment.
Just think about the time you dove off the court. Right? When you dove off the court and did the roll.
Yeah.
Right? Come on.
Yeah. I saw Coach Gard rolls off the court now. You never rolled off the court.
I did. I did the first year, and I said, guys, I'm going to show you one time. And then all the rest of the guys just kept the tradition going.
They took it from
Coach Gard didn't hurt himself, did he?
No. I think he was all right. I don't know. I don't remember how good it looked, but I think he was all right.
Only one that hurt themselves was Jared Bergeron when he popped his shoulder out on him.
Oh, he did not. Come on.
No, he did. No, but we'll move into the Word on Campus. That's our segment, Coach, where we talk about just have a little conversation, a little round table talk. So given that you were so kind to grace us with your presence this week, we want to just kind of talk about this Badger season and talk about all your success, never missing the tournament, and obviously how difficult that is. You spoke about the one time we got a 12 seed, but still went to the second round. So just give a little insight for us and for the fans on how difficult it is to build, recruit, and build a winner year after year.
Yeah. Well, I just think for the same reason that I gave so much credit to Bill Cofield in believing in me to hire me as an assistant, the same goes for a coach when he offers a scholarship to young men or young women. And, you say, okay, I believe in you. If you can do these things that we have planned and you buy in, you're going to leave here a better person. And that's the way I approached my coaching, is that I'm still the only junior high head coach, high school head coach, NAIA head coach, Division III head coach, mid-major, and, of course, Power 5 coach that's ever coached in the history of this game. No one has gone from junior high. Guys have gone from high school into college coaching. And we won't even talk about the pros because there's no way I could do that. And you guys know why. My patience and my thoughts on the game are a little different. But here's what I think.
I gotta interrupt you. Coach, I gotta interrupt you just quick, because I feel like you say your thoughts on the game are different, but I think we've always defensively forced teams into long twos, and on offense we tried to get layups and threes. It's always been the philosophy, which is tough twos. So which is what the NBA preaches now, which is analytics. So maybe maybe we got to it.
How about bringing points per possession to the state of Wisconsin? Yeah. I was keeping those when I was coaching in junior high and high school. And I came out to Wisconsin and I'm like, in practice, I'm going to this manager. Okay, now keep the number of possessions we have and how many points in it, and I want to get a percentage. And the manager looked at me and said, a percentage? I said, yeah, I want to know how many points per possession. That's something I value. If you get one or better, you're going to win 90% of your games. And if you hold another team to 0.9 or under, you're going to win 90% of your games. But here's what I was going to say, guys. When you're looking at coaching, it's teaching. So the fact that I've been fortunate enough to be involved with young men at Wisconsin who went to 14 out of 14 NCAA tournaments, the 4 conference championships, the 3, all those things, they talk about a coach with that record. Wait a second. Every one of you players had the record. You're the ones that performed. You're the ones that put it. Now, you weren't going to get my salary. Okay, I'll finish that with, NIL, I forgot. But anyhow, you guys as students gobbled up the info, did your best, put some numbers up that are still unbelievable. You guys played in a program that had the highest winning percentage in the history of the Big Ten. Those 14 years. And you were there for 4 of them. So every one of those teammates that and still stay in touch with or have met or whatever, just think you're a part of the highest winning percentage in the history of the Big Ten. Now you guys should take that and just, pat your chest once or twice and say, yeah, I'm proud of that.
I think
so when you say success, the success I'm looking at right now on this podcast, I'm looking at 2 guys that made us successful.
Appreciate that.
I appreciate you saying that, Coach. Obviously, we take pride in being a part of it, but you were the one that created the culture and environment for us to thrive. So it's obviously it's a two-way street, right? It's the coaching staff being in line with the players, with the AD, and everybody. And you were obviously the focal point of that. I want to transition that into talking about the job that Coach Gard has done, because he has continued that success and culture that you built. Jordan and I have kind of had a theme on this podcast of talking Badger fans off the ledge because we're on the bubble this year. But I want to take a step back, kind of big picture, and just the job that Coach Gard has done. I think the future that we have is so bright. I mean, we just talked about, all 3 of us, how much we love Connor Essegian. He's our best offensive player, and he's just a freshman. We know how good he's going to get as time goes on with player development. It's always been a huge part of our program. So you think about that. You think about we have everybody coming back next year, probably including Tyler Wall. I think the future is so bright. I'm so optimistic about what Coach Gard has done and what he can do. Just wanted to hear some of your insight on that.
Well, we were together for 23 years. It wasn't he worked for me for 23 years. We were together for 23 years. So I can remember the young kid dripping wet back at Platteville when he was trying to figure out what he was going to do with his life, what direction he was going to go in, and then got him to start working basketball camps. And he was all in. And I could see it. And that's why I had him right there with me the whole time with Robbie Jeter, who had played for me. We won't talk about Coach Gard's playing career. His coaching career is a lot better than his playing career. Gardo's not going to see this, is he?
You might.
But he has done, he fought through some stuff that, a lesser person would not have been able to handle. And fans can be tough. You got to have tough skin. And that, Cobb, Wisconsin isn't Chester, Pennsylvania, but they've got some pretty strong-minded people in Cobb. And he's a part of that. He's a part of that town, that community, that part of Wisconsin. And he sees the game like I always told you guys. A coach has to have a vision of how the game should be played. And then the coach knowing a lot of X's and O's is one thing. It's whether or not, like the teacher in the classroom, are the pupils better when the semester's over, when the school year's over? Did they learn anything? Are they the ones that got something out of the class? So that's something that Gardo's done a great job with these guys buying into his vision. And it's not like his vision is radical in any way or different. It's very solid. And the wins that Wisconsin's had, the conference championships, the NCAA tournament bids, all those things are based on a sound fundamental program that Gardo's been able to keep the fires lit and has done an unbelievable job, along with his staff. Joe Krabinoff. Joe was a little soft when he played for me. That'll get a chuckle.
No, I think
most scars or most stitches of any player I ever coached. Reef, I only had him for 1 year, but we go to the Elite Eight with Reef and Clayton Hanson. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people out there are going to go, who's that Clayton Hanson guy? Well, he's a very successful businessman now, very smart. I think he was valedictorian of his high school class at Reedsburg. But anyhow, those guys bought in, and they waited their time. They kept working, and they finally got themselves into a position to help lead a team. So Gardo's doing that with his guys. He's got great young players, and of course they're going to play defense. That's a given. But they're buying in. They're getting better. And like I said earlier, look out in the Big Ten tournament. I really think that we can make a lot of noise.
That's I agree. And also shout out Coach Gard. I think he's done a great job of not only teaching, but from an X's and O standpoint, kind of taking some swing principles and putting his own twist on things on the offense too.
Absolutely.
Which has been cool to see. But you mentioned Clayton Hanson and Sharif Chambliss. I want you. Last thing we got for you is, I think part of the struggles this year is, I think Wisconsin, the program that you built and Coach Gard is built on, is predicated on 4-year guys, 3 or 4 year guys staying in school, getting better each and every year. And I think losing Johnny was somewhat unexpected. I mean, obviously it was by the middle of last season expected. But when you're recruiting him, I don't think you were expecting it to lose him after sophomore year. And I think he's left what is a gaping hole in the roster. So actually just talk about how Sharif and Clayton replaced Devin after his junior year, and how was that just kind of a fortunate I'm always fortunate to get Sharif, but we weren't able to quite replace Johnny the same way. So talk about how difficult it is to replace a top 10 NBA pick without recruiting.
Like Devin?
Early. Yeah, like Devin or Johnny, yeah.
Well, I can remember Sharif coming in the office with his mom and Kelly, my wife, who you guys know well. She was up for Miss Racine, Wisconsin, and so was Reef's mom. So we had a chuckle over that when he came in the office, and he said, "Coach, I talked to the Penn State coach, and he said he'll release me. Can I come to Wisconsin and pay my own way?" And I called the coach from Penn State, made sure it was okay, and as opposed to the way some other people do it, and it was fine. So he wanted to be in the NCAA tournament 1 year. Just that was in life. He says, "I got it, Coach. I want to make the NCAA tournament." And I said, "Well, I can't guarantee you an NCAA tournament bid, but I can give you an opportunity." So the year he redshirted, the very last practice before we went to the NCAA tournament, he tore his ACL. And so it was a long road back, but fortunately he recovered. And then Clayton Hansen, who couldn't guard a lamppost when he first came in, his lateral movement, his speed, you guys know, you've seen him. He developed into a really good defensive player, and we knew he could score. And so those two waited their opportunity. They didn't, go somewhere else as far as Clayton was concerned. And, along with the other guys on that team, we battled North Carolina right down to the final minute to go to the Final Four. So with the portal, you're going to lose players. You're going to gain players. You just want to be on top. You gotta recruit a little differently, and you just have to be able to deal with a fluctuating roster. And you're right, guys. We always try to develop guys into 3-4 year players. And if somebody like Devin came in, talked to me about it, I said, "Devin, you got to take it. You got to go." And the same thing with Sam Decker. I mean, it was, and I believe they're the only two when I was coaching that left a year early. Back when I was an assistant, Wes Matthews left. And if he'd have come back for his senior year, Coach Cofield, we probably could have been in the NCAA tournament. But there's a lot of ifs out there in this game. But I think managing the landscape right now, guys, as a coach, is tough. And I am so glad I'm in Southern California on a golf course at my age doing what I'm doing now rather than maybe dealing with some of that stuff. I think that, look, how could I have Jon Leuer getting $100,000 a year or a car and Jordan Taylor getting a ice cream commercial for $500 or signing autographs at the bookstore?
That would have been swapped around. Jordan was Mr.
But how do you?
I'm not going to lie to you.
When I coached in Division III for 15 years, when I coached in Division III for 15 years, nobody got anything. There's no scholarships. There was when we were on the road at Platteville, every gym we went into, the managers were required to get all the game programs and bring them to me because you could get 2 for $1 on the burgers and the meal money that we were given in Division III at Platteville, feeding some of those guys on one burger. So we had to get those coupons. Well, here's what I'm thinking is how can there be some guys in Division I making X number of dollars, but not the other guys? So when I was on the executive committee of the Coaches Association, my idea was an annuity to be paid later to guys if they graduated, if they did, to have it on that end rather up front where you're in the locker room after you've just kicked his ass during practice and he's getting this and you're getting nothing. And that's what's happening in Division I. You got a locker room where it's not the same, right? But I believe in players getting more. There is no doubt. I'm on record with the Coaches Association as saying you guys definitely deserve more. But let's figure out a way to do it so you don't have a caste system on the same team. That's what I don't like about it.
And I would just rebuttal that by saying this is their introduction into free market capitalism.
Oh, no, I was an economics major. I understand it probably better than most of the coaches out there who were Phi Ed majors. You know, there's a lot of coaches that were physical education majors that I coached against. Not that because I was an econ major, I knew anything more than they did. It's just, yes, you can still be part of a capitalist system and get money on the back end. Sure. It's an investment. 100%. It's like a retirement plan. It's like, so, yeah. So your rebuttal's good, but you can still have a capitalist system.
Sure.
Because you're going to get paid.
Yes.
Eventually.
That is an entire podcast that we could get into. So, Coach, we will have to have you back on to discuss that more in depth. But I appreciate you jumping on and joining us and giving us your insight, especially on the last thing I'll say is, like you said, you touched on the Devin stuff, and I think that in the theme of keeping people off the ledge in that situation, I don't think people understand how fortunate you are to land on a Sharif in that situation, to have a Cam Taylor who's young but under Sharif, and then a Lando Tucker who was a redshirt freshman as well. So it was just and now with Johnny, you lose Lauren Bowman, you lose a bunch of pieces.
Well, no, because he was injured. He was injured.
He was injured. He was injured. So
I mean, like, how do you spend $42 million, Jordan?
Yeah, man. Ask John. He got every single one.
No,
of them. John,
I wanted to get a reaction. I got one finally.
You did. Absolutely. No, but Jordan, I want to rebuttal one of your points, because you said we have a gaping hole with Johnny gone. I disagree with that a little bit, because I mean, we backfilled Johnny essentially with Connor, right? I mean, maybe he's not the
way
player
it looks
Johnny
now.
was. Right. I think one more year, he's that type of player. He might be an NBA player after next year. It's just so that's a big win for the recruiting of this coaching staff to backfill Johnny with another great shooting guard that might be, one of the best in school history when it's all said and done.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Can you imagine having, I guess you probably wouldn't have both of them, right? But it would be nice. It would be nice to have both of them on this team. That might be a national championship team. But again, that's another conversation for another day. Again, that's all we have for you today. So be sure. This is one of the last episodes for us. We're getting to the end of the season as we head into March. To check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts. And on YouTube and all other socials, IG, Twitter, and TikTok with the handle @BeyondTheBig10, not spelled out, but the number 10. And also to check out the Over Under Sports Bar in Chicago on Friday, March 8th, if you're down there for the Big Ten tournament. Coach Ryan, we appreciate you joining us, and we want to have you on again.
Yes,
and hopefully you can make it on the show. It's good to see you. Enjoy the weather down there. You got any parting words?
My parting words are, I am so proud to be able to be sitting here looking at two of the best young men I've ever coached. And you guys certainly did a lot for the University of Wisconsin. And what's more important, you're doing a lot for them right now, and you're continuing the tradition. So thanks, guys, for having me on and putting up with me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Coach. That means a lot.
That absolutely does. And it's always good to hear old stories and catch up with you. And, we talk about that. We talk about you in a good light with that. And it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. So on that note, I think that's the best way to end it. I am Jordan Taylor. That's Jon Leuer. Again, Coach Ryan, thank you. And we'll catch y'all next week. Enjoy.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.